All right, Evan, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, November 15th, 2021. So, relatively quiet day on Wall Street despite the whippy action here. We can see on the SPY just 32 million shares traded so far at about 3:22 p.m. So, just over half an hour left to go in the trading day and only 32 million shares traded. But there's been some pretty whipsaw action here. We did have the market take a big dip here. Got support at the 200 moving average. This was after Fed President Dudley mentioned that there would be more and more rate hikes up to as high as 3 to 4% even in the coming year or years. And that spooked the markets out a little bit, but ultimately just kind of holding up here. It is off the lows. Semis are giving the market a lift here as they're getting back off the lows led by NVIDIA. Tesla was leading the market lower pretty precipitously with this dip here earlier. Coming off the lows here, possibly a little bit of short covering, a little bit of profit taking there from the shorts as Tesla gets a bid now. Now reclaiming that $1,000 handle, but ultimately Tesla probably gets down to that 900 area, maybe a little bit lower. You have the daily 50 MA there. You have this former trend line, a couple of those trend lines there, and you have the weekly 20 MA upsloping in this range. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a dip down to fill this gap, maybe pierce that a little bit for Tesla. That would be your kind of a swing long area. And by the way, we alerted this as a sell on Thursday, November 4th, and at one point today it was down 21% from that top. So crazy stuff there. We did have a max move, and that played out perfectly. Tesla dipping very sharply off of that max move area. Got the same sell signal on NVIDIA as well. However, we did not take this short as they have earnings, I believe, on Wednesday, and we just don't want to get in front of that, as anything can really happen when you get in front of earnings like that. Now, speaking of Tesla, Michael Burry just closed out a whole bunch of his short positions. So let's take a look at that. Zero Hedge reporting that he's nuked his short portfolio. He's basically given up on the inflation trade, closed his puts on TLT, calls on TBT, and so on and so forth. Calls on TMV, which is a Treasury bear. So he is basically given up on the inflation trade. And if you watch the weekend video on Wall Street from Main Street, we talked about Russell Clark's hedge fund that basically threw in the towel as well. So things that are not seen at the beginning of a bull market for 200, Alex, please give me that category. Essentially, what I'm saying here is that this is getting really frothy. And we've talked about the possibility of this market putting in a top towards the latter part of this year. Maybe the end of the year. Maybe it can hold up into early next year. That is a possibility, but I think we are going to put in a major top at some point in the next couple of months. And I'm not talking about a little 5 to 7% little dip. I'm talking about an actual, at least a 20% move to the downside. This market's just getting very frothy. We're seeing bear funds capitulate, and we talked about this in the weekend video. The bull bear ratio in the beginning of October was down to like 45, and it's almost at 60 now. So quite a reversal, and we're seeing some euphoric moves in a lot of these names. We talked about AMD, NVIDIA, Tesla. We talked about these names a lot recently, and they're getting frothy. Look at the weekly time frame on Tesla. I mean, that was a massive move here, and it's come off the highs pretty precipitously. Look at that monthly there so far, pretty big red candle. But in any case, let's just move on here. Let's talk about yields. So yields having a nice day. If we can pull up the TNX there. Yields having a nice day, and they are threatening this inverse head and shoulder neckline. Hit that once, and usually you don't get a break immediately. So nice to see that little pullback there. I do expect yields to break out, and wouldn't that be ironic and hilarious if yields broke higher right after Michael Burry closed his TLT short position? I mean, you can't make this stuff up, but that's how markets work. Once the bears finally capitulate, that's when the top starts to be put in. Dollar index also having a nice day, so great follow through there on the dollar. That looks poised to get up to about that 96 handle. That's where you broke down from. You'll probably have a little bit of resistance in there. Once you get through that, it's up to 97-ish, and I think it can ultimately get up to maybe 98, maybe 99 before it's really going to stall out. But again, dollar just chugging along, a little bit overbought here on the weekly time frame, but nothing really wrong with it. It is holding up very nicely, and we talked about this last week, but dollar bears are getting crushed right now, and that's what happens when you jump all onto a one-sided trade like we saw earlier in the year. Everybody thought the dollar was going to 85. And that's exactly the opposite of what happened. And that's why we've been bullish dollar since really March, since we put in this low and we put this pivot in. We said, yeah, this is probably a low here. And we went down here, tested double bottom, and dollar has taken off since then. Speaking of yields and the dollar, gold is holding up really well. Nice little pullback off of this inverse head and shoulders neckline. Funny how we've got inverse head and shoulders on yields and gold. So what does that tell you? And with strong dollar, that tells you that the market is worried about inflation. And it's truly worried about inflation. Now gold, if gold starts to break out here and yields break out at the same time, that will not be good for the market. That will be a major negative. It's going to tell you that the market is worried about inflation, and it's going to hit margins. So we're watching this. It hasn't triggered yet. We probably have to do a little bit of backing and filling. We're under resistance here on gold, but we're looking at gold. We are getting bullish gold here pretty soon. And silver doing the same thing. We have that inverse head and shoulders trigger on silver. And nice little just pull back here for silver right now. Probably just needs to consolidate to get through that 200 MA. You got this pivot high here as resistance as well, but nothing wrong with the chart on silver either. Let's talk about the marijuana stocks a little bit. So I closed out some Aurora calls earlier today. So nice little trade there. We are still holding this one a quarter position with the patrons. But nice little pullback here. We've hit target 2 in less than 24 hours on Friday. We had a buy at 763. Took profits on the open, and we took profits yesterday at about 840. So nice little trade there. But we're still holding a quarter position. Now the GOP is introducing a bill to legalize marijuana, so that would be bipartisan. That is a little uncharacteristic of GOP, and so that kind of puts the onus on the Democrats to support this. But so there is good news coming out of the sector. There's also M&A hopes in the sector. Tilray having a nice day, but these stocks are just kind of pausing here. CGC just pausing right now. But I do like the pot stocks here, and I do like Aurora Cannabis specifically. I think there's a lot of upside in this name here, possibly up to, this. It can definitely squeeze, and when this thing squeezes, it gets, as you can see, if we pull back to the weekly, it squeezes pretty hard, all the way down from basically $3 to $20 in a couple months. And, these names are heavily shorted, and the shorts will cover if they take out key areas. But in any case, I do like that sector. And, we do have OPEX week here, so we just got to be careful with these names. And, a lot of these stocks, the S&P, a lot of the stocks in S&P, a lot of the tech stocks are really overbought. We just talked about Tesla, AMD, NVIDIA. And, we had a nice October, so it would make sense for these hedges to be unwound. Do you think that this wasn't a gamma squeeze? Yeah, I mean, like this move on Tesla is definitely a gamma squeeze. So these hedges will be unwound as we get closer to OPEX. And, that's probably going to put some downside pressure specifically on tech. And I think the Qs will probably pull back to that midline eventually, like we've talked about recently. But in any case, we'll see a little bit more as the market unfolds, as the week unfolds. Again, kind of a quiet Monday altogether. And we'll see what happens Tuesday. I think volume picks up around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we get a little bit more action in this market. In any case, you guys take care and have a great rest of your night.